Hello, hello. If you're watching this later, which I know you are because nobody's watching this right now, we're live and you're here with Nerd Squad Reviews with Sarah and Scott.
Hi.
And you're going to get to listen to another awkward intro later in the stream when I introduce the optimistic podcast section of the stream. Optimistic, I say, because it depends on me actually downloading and editing the footage together.
An optimistic podcast is a podcast I want to listen to.
Yeah, Cool People Who Did Cool Stuff by Margaret Killjoy is sort of that.
I have no idea what that is.
It's like the companion podcast to Behind the Bastards, but it's about like cool people who did cool stuff.
Like nice people.
Usually it's about like kind of revolutionary, like anarchists or anti-colonial, like organizers and stuff. And a lot of times like their stories don't end optimistically, but they're at least they tried. They tried to make the world a better place, and sometimes they succeed.
That's what we're trying to do by tearing down queer media.
Yeah, well, let's actually start the stream. Are you good? You doing?
Yeah, my voice is a little weird today, but
that's fine. Your voice has always been weird.
That is a good point.
All right, let's podcast. Okay. I came up with a new theme song for our podcast.
Will you do it on the?
Yeah, I'll perform it right now.
Okay, great.
Potting time. You don't have to pod home, but you can't pod here. What do you think? Is that a good pod theme song?
That's what you came up with. Yeah, you're just a musical improv genius.
Yeah, that's proof.
Yeah,
that wasn't improv. That's the thing.
For a podcast called Nerd Squad, make up a theme song.
Yeah.
Okay, great. I'm going to do nothing with the name of the podcast and just replace some words in Closer or Closing Time by Travis. Is that who's by Travis?
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure it is.
I would have just guessed Green Day, but I don't know. We can Google that. Oh, hello and welcome to Nerd Squad. The podcast where two nerdy gays who are also best friends talk about stuff that they want to talk about. In this case, movies, specifically Bros by Billy Eichner.
Yeah, bro.
I'm Sarah Kaplan.
I'm Scott Wise.
And we've known each other since we were 11. And we've been queer since our whole lives. And we didn't come out to each other since we were 24.
I love that we were friends for, was it that like 13, 14 years?
Yeah, it was 13 years.
Yeah.
Still longer than we've been friends since then.
That's amazing.
Twice as long almost. Yeah, no, it's pretty amazing. Scott,
here we are, queer as fuck.
So. Semisonic played.
Oh, I was wrong.
Scott, you picked the movie Bros. If you're new to this podcast, which I assume you are because it's a new podcast, welcome. So far, we've reviewed the movies Saltburn and Bottoms. Do you remember what we gave Saltburn? It was like a 26.5, 27.
Yeah, I should write this down. Saltburn, something like that. Maybe a 24.5.
No, it was higher. Saltburn was somewhere in the upper mid-20s out of 37. And Bottoms, what did we give Bottoms? Like a...
That one I do have. We gave Bottoms a 15 out of 37.
Bottoms got a 15 out of 37. So that is our official rating system. It's based on a very strict rubric that follows the most objective and subjective artistic analysis out there. And we'll see how the movie Bros fares.
Yeah, I'm excited to give more 37-point ratings so people start to calibrate what a 37, a base 37
and so
metric
we start
system
to
is.
Calibrate. Yeah, because I finished the movie and I was like, how do I rate this? Like, well,
I have not decided my rating yet.
I haven't either, so we'll figure out at the end. Scott, I feel like the first movie was just a movie we talked about, Saltburn. Not really a queer movie, it's just a movie that has queers in it. Bottoms definitely tries to be a queer movie, and I think I convinced you that it largely fails. Although I do know a lot of queer people who love it. And
I made some arguments that we talked about last time about Bottoms to someone who had just watched it, and they bought it. So
great. Yeah, they bought them. They bought them.
They bought the arguments.
Yeah. So But where Bottoms was a movie that was kind of more about the lesbian experience, which isn't like high school girl lesbian is not either of our experience, but closer to mine. I feel like this movie is much more in your wheelhouse, so I'm excited to hear your thoughts on it.
I have a lot of thoughts on it. I'm excited to talk to you about it, actually, because for me, there's an element of cringe to this movie that was palpable for me the whole time I was watching it. It's a movie about the mask for mask gay male experience in New York of dating in your 30s.
Right.
That is literally my life.
Is he 40? I think he's 40. Yeah.
Dating 41. In your 30s and 40s. Yeah.
Yeah. Before we get too far into it, Scott, you're introducing more of an organizational structure to the podcast. Do you want to talk about it? Did you want to introduce segments, or was that just to guide us?
No, I think it was more to guide us. But basically, we're going to talk about the beginning of the. We'll chat together a little bit. We'll introduce the movie, any relevant facts about the movie, give sort of like a thesis if we have one, and then explore that thesis over the course of the beginning third, the middle third, the ending third, and then recap. Did we change our minds? And how did we rate it?
Great. So sorry I interrupted. Continue setting up bros for us. I keep wanting to call it Bottoms because it's about a bottom, but
it could have been called Bottoms.
Yeah.
Every gay man in New York is a bottom, for those of you who don't know.
Yeah. Except for, I don't remember. I'm so bad at character names. What is Hawkeye's name? Just give us the summary. All right, Aaron. Yeah.
Yeah, there's two kinds of men in New York. There's bottoms and there's liars.
I think that's just true of humans.
All humans are bottoms?
I think, like, at most, there are service tops. But, like, isn't service topping really just the ultimate form of bottoming?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so
anyway, back to the movie, Bros. Bros is about a podcaster and new museum head.
Kind of unclear.
He's on the board of a museum, of the first LGBTQ plus museum in the United States, Museum for Queer History. This is played by Billy Eichner, who's also the writer of the movie. His name is Bobby in the movie, and he's playing basically himself. Billy Eichner wrote a role for himself, and if you don't know who Billy Eichner is, he's a comedian who got famous as Billy on the Street, where he would go up to people in New York City and accost them and scream at them and yell at them and make them feel uncomfortable for a few seconds and then move on. Is
True.
That accurate how you would describe him?
Yeah. No, I laugh because my former roommate was the editor of that show for years. So yeah, funny story. I never met Billy Eichner, but like my roommate would come home talking about, what Billy was doing at the office or whatever.
And what was that your roommate's opinion of Billy?
He liked Billy a lot. Yeah, it sounded like as a creative boss, he was good to work for. He had a clear vision of what he wanted, but also wasn't too micromanaging, and overall was someone who was approachable.
Billy's very smart.
Yeah, he's a smart guy.
I think you can tell from the writing of the movie. The references are clever. The jokes are there. It's a very well-written movie. I think the line delivery of those jokes left much to be desired, but we'll get there.
Yeah, well, directed by a straight man, so. And co-written by a straight man.
Why? Judd Apatow.
Judd Apatow.
Anyway, that's not who.
Nicholas Stoller, for clarity. Nicholas Stoller was the director and co-writer, and
Judd Apatow produced it. Is that correct?
Yeah, Nicholas Stoller is writer-director, or director of Forgetting Sarah Marshall and Get Him to the Greek, and he's worked on a bunch of kind of bro-y comedy Judd Apatow movies.
Right. Those are both iconic movies. Laugh out.
Those are great movies. I love Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
Yeah, me too.
Get Him to the Greek I've soured on because, Russell Brand's descent into sort of esoteric Christian fascism, but
Stroke a Fuzzy Wall lives rent-free in my brain.
Yeah, so good.
So this movie, we'll get to the plot in a second. It really was billed as the first gay big budget romantic comedy from a major studio. And that's why we decided to watch it, because Bottoms, we had a similar critique, which was that this movie was marketed a certain way, which was like queer high school gross out comedy, that sort of thing. And Sarah's point about that movie was that the queerness was in name only. I wanted to watch Bros to sort of compare it because Bros was marketed in a similar way, and that was largely to its detriment. Bros
Yeah.
totally tanked.
Tanked,
Which
widely panned. I didn't
Mhm.
even consider watching it because all the reviews I saw of it were like, "This movie sucks. It's like not even gay at all." Which I disagree with, but that's what I wanted to hear your thoughts on.
So the budget was 22 million and it made gross 15 million. So it didn't even make back the money that it spent on itself, which is a sign of a flop, right? That's kind of
Still though,
definitionally what a flop
that's
is.
they did a lot with $22 million though. Like that's a fairly cheap movie in modern times.
Yeah, that was pretty well made, right?
Like let's see how much Bottoms cost. But like they had some fucking set pieces, you know?
I agree.
Okay, so it was roughly twice the budget of Bottoms. But considering they were filming in New York and like some of the shit that they did, like especially in that like in the museum, they had some huge set pieces and they
Mhm.
had some really famous people.
Some technology. Yeah.
Yeah, so anyway, I'm surprised it was that cheap.
I know the opening weekend was rough.
Yeah,
And Billy Eichner came forward and said that it was because straight people weren't coming to see the movie. And that sort of
that didn't help.
did not help, right?
Yeah.
Gay people didn't really see the movie either. And one of the main issues that I think was the crux of this movie was that Billy Eichner wrote a role for himself that was unconvincing. It was convincing in the sense that you believed that Billy Eichner is playing this man. I'm not sure we believed in the romance. And the
Mm.
rom-com is really that's what this was supposed to be. It was supposed to be a queer rom-com. And I think in a lot of the ways that you talked about how queer women love each other and it didn't really come across in Bottoms, I think that the trappings of gay relationships were there in terms of like, here's the denotation of how gay people get together. Here's the grinder setup. Here's the party setup. Here's the first date. Here's the group sex. Here's the non-monogamy. And I bought none of it.
Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, I don't know. You know Billy Eichner.
To be clear, I don't know Billy Eichner.
Sorry, you don't know Billy Eichner. You've encountered Billy Eichner in the
Many
wild,
a time, yes.
never spoken to him, but
Yes,
um,
and therefore we live in similar lanes. We go to similar parties, events. We know the same people.
yeah. As far as I know, he doesn't have a partner or anything. I mean, I'm sure he's had partners or something.
I sort of believe Bobby was exactly Billy, and
Yeah,
Bobby said he'd never been in love,
yeah,
and I think that was kind of clear. I think
yeah,
Billy Eichner wrote a movie for someone who was trying to fall in love, having never been in love. This is all conjecture, but
sure. Yeah, I mean that's all we can do.
we talked about this last time with Rachel Sennett as well. Why would you write a character for yourself that you're going to deliver that is unlikable or that has lines that are going to come back to haunt you? I don't think he did quite that. I think that the role was clever and there were funny lines, but I think that Billy probably shouldn't have played the lead role.
It sounds like so. I'm like looking at the history of the movie. This was a project that was, it sounds like, pieced together. Like
Mm,
they worked together on Neighbors 2 and got a lot of praise for the way that Nick Stoller directed Eichner in Neighbors 2 and the way that they portrayed gay people in a way that was like funny but not in a homophobic way. And it sounds like then the Hollywood production machine probably was like, "Oh, that's what we need. We need a rom-com. We'll get Billy Eichner to write and star in it. We'll get Nick Stoller to direct it." But like the project was constructed and then Billy Eichner was in the position of, I'm guessing, having to now write this movie to like fit that order.
mhm.
And I agree with you. Like you feel that tension. Like that it doesn't seem like that's an experience he's really had. And
It's
like
kind of like he happened to be the most A-list gay man who could pull off this
yeah,
type of movie at the time.
yeah. I mean, and specifically like at the level of getting a production company to back
Right.
it. Yeah. But yeah, no, I mean, he has a lot of disdain for the rom-com. I think that
That's
comes
true.
through.
Hmm.
Yeah.
A lot of disdain for a lot. I think he's a pretty negative
Yeah,
person. He writes that role for himself.
he didn't seem happy.
No, and he pushes away this guy who's seemingly pretty perfect.
Objectively perfect, kind of.
Yeah.
Except for okay, let's talk about the plot a little
And
bit
there's
more,
very
and then,
little for that Bobby gives back to Aaron, played by Luke McFarlane,
yeah.
to make you believe that Aaron is actually in love with Bobby. I think that's the major tension that I felt is like,
Yeah, but
why
let's
does
do
Aaron
a
like
little
this guy?
plot review just because we'll assume if you're listening, you probably haven't seen Bros. No
Okay.
one's seen it. So Billy Eichner is the podcaster, Bobby, and he hosts a podcast called The 11th Brick at Stonewall, which is meant to be a joke on like the fact that he's a cis white gay man doing this queer history podcast, and he's like acknowledging that white cis gay men have become so emblematic of queerness, but like also, and this is a theme that runs throughout the movie. Like Billy Eichner does go out of his way to consistently like include other kinds of queers and remind people that even though this is a white gay man story, that is not the extent of what queerness is. So I do applaud him for trying to do that. And
I thought the museum scenes were by far the most successful of the movie.
yeah, that's what I felt like he's interested in. I mean, that's
Mhm.
what he made his main character interested in. Like he clearly is interested in queer history. It's something that his character is very knowledgeable about, and since he wrote the movie, and I'm guessing Nick Stoller wasn't bringing that to the picture, it's clearly something Billy Eichner has done a lot of research about and seems passionate about. And I did believe that part of the character, and I believed that tension of trying to find his place of like the movie kind of starts with him getting this award for white cis gay male of the year, and like that's Billy Eichner commenting on his own position in like the entertainment industry, I feel like. And yeah, like I felt like he was uncomfortable with the whole movie.
He even addresses it on
Yeah.
the podcast. He says straight people want to make a gay rom-com,
Yeah.
which proves our point that this was a project that was
It's forced
gifted
on him.
to him.
Gifted.
And well, it was an opportunity that you kind of can't pass up. I don't blame him for doing this, but that he was self-aware of it the entire time. The
Yeah.
movie is quite aware of its place and his place in queer canon.
In the movie, his character has a meeting with some like big shot producers who were like, write us a queer rom com. And he's like, no, that doesn't make sense. Uh, so yeah. Um, in that sense, it's very reminiscent of The Matrix 4. I don't know if you saw that. The Ma- The Matrix 4 starts with like Neo. Have you seen any of the Matrix movies?
Mhm.
So Neo is like back in the Matrix, and now Neo is working at a video game company, and the Matrix is his award-winning video game. And he made one brilliant first installment and then two mediocrely received third installments. And now
That's
it's
funny.
years later, and the executives at the video game company are trying to force him to make the Matrix 4, and they tell him like, well, if you don't make the Matrix 4, we own the IP, so we'll just bring someone else in to make it. And that's what the Matrix 4 is about. um
That's self-aware. Barbie does a similar thing. It's
yeah,
very aware of itself and its role as both a marketing tactic for Mattel and a big budget
yeah,
comedy. And it addresses a lot of what they assume the critiques will be.
yeah,
So that's
very
sort of what Billy
lampshady.
is doing here.
Yeah, but in I haven't seen Barbie movie. I feel like Billy and the Wachowskis were both like critiquing the system that put them in the position to make this thing to begin with. A lot of times what happens in Hollywood, and I have no insider information on this, but given how much it seems like Billy Eichner didn't want to write this movie and how much disdain he had for it, a lot of times what happens to people like this is they get offered like either oh, you have this passion project that you actually want to make, we'll fund that if you do this.
Hmm.
Or they're kind of just like, you know, if you don't do this, then good luck getting on a, in a Universal picture going forward or whatever.
I feel a little bit bad for Billy. I think that he was set up for failure,
Yeah,
and I don't know if his name is good enough anymore in Hollywood to command this kind of movie. I hope that he gets to write more movies because I think he's a talented writer. I think there was a problem in the casting.
Yeah. So anyway, back to the plot. He gets this award. He announces that not only is he a podcaster who's also written children's books, he is also like the director of the upcoming LGBTQ plus history museum in New York. And
one of his books is "Are You There, God? It's Me, Martina Navratilova."
True. There's a lot of funny jokes in the movie. Yeah. And then eventually he's at a party. He's at a club. And I think it's maybe even like he's there celebrating his award. I wasn't quite clear on why he was there.
No, it's the launch party for a new gay dating app called Zellweger.
That's right, Zellweger. Yeah,
For men who want to talk about actresses and fall asleep.
Yeah, which sounds great. Like I'd be on that app.
I know Sarah would totally be on that.
I don't know shit about actresses, but like any sort of just hanging out and cuddling based app sounds great to me. Okay, and there he sees the guy who's known to be really hot.
Aaron, played by Luke McFarlane.
Yeah, Seth MacFarlane's older brother.
Who I believe has been
I'm
in
just
like
making
Hallmark.
That's a lie.
I don't think that's true. I think he's been in like Hallmark movies, that sort of thing, as a straight actor, and this was his first role as a gay leading man, as a gay man.
Is he gay?
Yeah, in real life, yes.
Got it.
Yeah, he's done a lot of like Christmas Hallmark movies.
And he studied. I'm looking at him now. He studied theater at Juilliard. He seems to be like a legit theater. He's done a lot of stage stuff too. And I liked him.
Yeah, I thought it was good.
I thought he was good. And he's a really hot dude. Bobby's friend is like, oh, that guy's really hot, except he's super boring. And now the guy's here and he's talking to Bobby and he says, I like your podcast. And they have awkward conversation. And then Bobby says, you're boring and gay people are dumb. And Aaron says, I'm actually a probate lawyer. And that is boring. I wasn't quite clear on what that was. Like, that is boring. Was that the point? Or was the point that he's smart because he's a lawyer?
That was part of it. It's like a gay with a real job, but it was also setting up later that's not his passion. And
right, that's not his passion.
Bobby actually does his passion as a career, and that's something that Aaron kind of gets from him in their relationship.
Yeah. Aaron is out of Bobby's league canonically, and in real life, probably. I don't know. I don't know that world. But in the movie, he's out of the league.
I think we should talk about that.
Yeah. Do you want to pause here and give me some info?
No.
Do it after.
After. You
can
continue.
Yeah. They talk. Bobby is like crushes on this guy, leans in for the kiss, and Aaron fucking Batmans the fuck out of there. And then Bobby goes and finds him on the dance floor and gives him a talking to about how like rude that was. And the guy's like, sorry, I'm like bad at feelings or something. I don't know what he says. Do you know what he says? It doesn't really matter. Later they're texting. I don't remember the plot of this movie, Scott.
They start dating. They go on some dates. It's very like meet cute rom-com type shit.
It's very much explicitly not dating though, because neither of them. Oh, I love. There was one funny line early in this part where he's like, "Nobody's more emotionally unavailable than I am." I liked that. Yeah, they start hanging out.
They do classic gay shit. They go to Provincetown.
They go to a foursome.
They have an orgy. They have the non-monogamy conversation
But before that, like after their first kind of date, which is nice, and Bobby invites Aaron upstairs, and then Aaron is like, well, I'm supposed to go fuck this couple. Do you want to come with me? And then like
I've literally done that.
Yeah, and then it was like cut to Bobby and Aaron like looking at each other, and you think it's romantic, and then you zoom out and like the married couple that Aaron is there to fuck is they're both going down on Aaron, and Bobby's just sort of sitting next to him very awkwardly, and then leaves. Like, oh, and the other thing we missed so far is the running theme of like the emptiness of the grinder hookup that
Mm-hmm.
Bobby keeps having. Like his first one, he just goes over to a dude's house and the dude comes on his stomach and then is like, "Do you want to finish?" And Bobby's like, "No, I think I'll just go home."
Yeah, there were some pretty real gay hookup type scenes in this that
Yeah.
we can address. Just to finish the plot, though, they because I want to go back to the kind of the beginning third and
Okay,
kind of
yeah.
dig a
Sorry,
little
I'm all
deeper.
over the place,
It's okay.
but
We're figuring out podcasting on the fly. Did you
also
hear
the
Sarah's
movie is
podcasting song? That is not our opening. Just to be clear,
that's our theme song.
that's not our theme
Potting
song.
time.
That is not our theme song.
But also the movie is just kind of like it's a long movie for how little plot there is
Very
because
little plot.
there's a lot of bits
Hmm.
and themes.
Yeah, it
So
it feels like it's hitting a lot of rom-com tropes
yeah.
in a gay way, and I think that's part of the problem.
Hmm.
Anyway, fast forward towards the end, the museum opens. They have broken up a little bit because there was a snafu with Bobby meeting Aaron's parents. It was the first kind of boyfriend or guy he was seeing that Aaron had ever introduced his parents to, and so that went badly. And so Bobby opens the museum, and Aaron shows up to support him out of nowhere, and Bobby sings him a love song.
Yeah.
And then they go off into the sun and live happily ever after for 3 months.
3 months and then they'll reassess.
And then they'll reassess.
Um,
So that's the plot of
yeah.
the movie.
Yeah, and there's like running themes of like Bobby's trying to raise money for the museum, and so he has to go meet like Bo and Yang in Provincetown, and there's other shit happening. And Aaron, the the guy that Aaron played hockey with growing up in his small town that he's always had a crush on, like his straight crush, comes out as gay and moves to New York. And so that's like, oh no, Bobby gets really insecure about that. It's like, is he going to leave me for this super buff, hot, like classically masculine dude? It's like an examination of Bobby's anxiety around being too much of like a femmy, faggoty persona, but he's not like a twink. He's like older and hairy, and I don't know.
Yeah, aging twinks, they have it rough.
There's a lot of anxiety and insecurity like pervading the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Not as a criticism, like thematically, that's what it's about.
Yeah, I think my I do want to get into the meat of the movie. I think my overarching take on it is that Billy Eichner was a little obsessed with rom-coms and either subverting them or following them to a T, sort of similar to the way that we talked about Bottoms being like hitting tropes of similar movies instead of actually having a queer narrative that made sense. It was like gay relationship for straight people. And you can't tell if you're just watching the movie because there's actual sex and there's grinder and there's gay shit that's happening, and so you think it's very gay. And in some ways it is, but I think have a story about a gay relationship has been done before, and it's been done in a way that is not for straight people. There's a movie called The Weekend where two men meet at a club and then they have this tumultuous 3-day relationship. That's a queer narrative that is singular, and you have you're watching an individual queer experience. And you said this, I think, on the first episode. Every queer experience is individual. There's no such thing as a universal queer experience. And I think this movie was grappling with that the whole time. It like knows that, and it shows you that with the museum and all the different representatives of all the different LGBTQ plus. But then it goes into a plot that feels so done before, just in gay settings.
Yeah, I want to hear more about that because like I'm not a gay man. I've never lived that life, and I've specifically never lived it in New York. Like this is a movie that's kind of about your scene specifically. Like the Mask for Mask New York gays. which
A lot of
if
this
you don't
stuff's
know,
happened to me.
that's like what Scott's that's where Scott lives.
I live in New York. I work for a gay company. I go to these parties. I know these people.
Yeah. So to me, watching it as an outsider to that life, like yes, it definitely felt like a rom-com in the like plotty, tropey sense. I liked this movie more than I liked Bottoms.
I did too.
I had more fun watching it. Bottoms, I was like, when can I turn this off? I was not compelled, so there was nothing bringing me forward. This movie, I was actually like, it took a while. Like probably for the first half hour, I was like not into it, and then eventually, I was like, okay, I'm sort of invested in these characters, and even though I agree with you, like there's a lot of issues with specifically Bobby and Aaron, and more specifically Bobby and Aaron as a couple. I did like the characters individually, and so I was interested to like figure out where their lives were going.
I had a thought about 2/3 of the way through the movie because I got really bored and was frustrated that there was another 45 minutes.
It is long. It's long.
And, a 2-hour movie didn't used to feel long, and you can make a 2-hour movie feel like it's not long. This one felt long to me.
No, 2-hour movies have always been long. Like a rom-com 10 years ago was 90 minutes.
A rom-com doesn't need to be 2 hours long. Totally.
Yeah.
There's a scene towards the end, when they're at dinner with the parents, and he's describing to his boyfriend's mom dismay how Bobby's parents brought him to a play when he was a kid, all about gay men, and there were all these penises on stage. And
7 penises,
seven,
and
7 penises. And it made me wonder, am I viewing this movie through the lens of 31-year-old Scott who lives this lifestyle and is able to critique every little decision made? I mean, the answer is obviously yes. But had I seen this movie as a teen in the same time we were watching Forgetting Sarah Marshall and Get Him to the Greek, I think I would have had a much different experience. And I think having a rom-com like this that I could watch with my friends, like we watched Forgetting Sarah Marshall, I would have felt differently, and I could have felt a little bit more seen. I could have, this is conjecture, I'll never know, but maybe I would have felt like, oh, there is a life for me in New York. Like that seems like something that would happen to me. I'm on the masculine side of the gay experience, and there's some representation of Aaron who I would like to be one day.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think totally. And like that was my main thing as I was watching it. I've been thinking a lot about like does art I'll back up this thought because I'm skipping ahead in my own brain here. So if you listened to episode 2, you would know that my critiques of Bottoms were largely around the fact that I thought it was an irresponsible portrayal of queer people for the modern climate. It was like queerphobic and perpetuated queerphobic, like predatory lesbian shit, and I just thought it was irresponsible given everything happening today. Contrary wise, as I was watching this movie, I was like, is this a great movie? No, but I really appreciate what he's trying to do. Like, this is trying to be a positive portrayal of gay people. He's trying to bring in as many elements of queer experience as he can and make it really clear to the, potential straight audience that this is a one small picture of a much broader field. He had a lot of like explicitly trans characters and a lot of like, I appreciate it. Didn't feel irresponsible in the way Bottoms did. It just felt like not a very good movie.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that he gets a lot of points for trying, and I think he wrote a pretty good movie, and I think he shouldn't have cast himself as the lead. I think he
cast himself the lead. I also don't think the Aaron actor is great either.
I think that he's developed a little bit of a reputation in the gay world of being like curmudgeon and
that's his whole shtick.
Bitchy and mean, and doesn't really have people rooting for him.
Yeah.
And I think as the lead of a movie, like, yeah, he wrote himself that way, so there was really little to root for, in my opinion. But I think that was part of the problem. I didn't want them to succeed. I was like, Aaron, you can do better than this guy. What are you putting up with this shit for?
His position as this very successful podcaster, as this director of whatever, constantly going to these awards ceremonies, maybe like, and maybe this is just true of Billy Eichner himself, and like that comes through in the movie. But you're kind of watching it, and you're like, why is this guy this person? Like, he's not particularly charismatic. He knows a lot. He's clearly smart, and he knows a lot. But like, he's not really charismatic. He's definitely bitchy. Yeah, and I agree with you. Like, watching it, I'm like, why does I get what he gets out of Aaron? Aaron's a hot golden retriever guy.
Mm-hmm.
And Billy is like Aaron is like a manic pixie dream boy. Basically.
I guess Aaron has a parasocial relationship with him, right? Aaron listens to his podcast, and so maybe that's what he gets from it.
There seems to be an implication that like Aaron's experience of gayness, he's not quite in the closet. Actually, that was unclear when I was watching the scene of like when he brings Bobby to have dinner with his parents, and he's like freaking out the more Bobby talks about queer stuff. I was like, is Aaron in the closet? I couldn't tell.
Mm-hmm.
He's not quite in the closet, but he's like definitely not willing to embrace being a gay man beyond like his role as hot sex object.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he is not open to the idea of entering a gay relationship and figuring out what gay romance looks like. Like, he hasn't moved past sex for what his identity means. And I think Bobby maybe represented like a deeper engagement with queer identity than he'd let himself do to that point.
Yeah, that's a lot of where their tension comes from. It's Aaron wanting Bobby to be more bro-y, to be more passing as a straight man. That's what the name of the movie is.
Yeah, he gets embarrassed.
Mm-hmm. and Bobby's unwilling to do so. And in that regard, I thought that was a positive for Bobby. How did you feel about a movie about a podcaster?
I don't think it's good. I don't know why he couldn't have just been a comedian.
Yeah.
Like, I think his success would have made more sense as Billy Eichner, like as a stand-up comedian, because stand-up comedians can be assholes.
He almost should have just played Billy.
He should have just been Billy Eichner.
Mm-hmm.
But he could have been like Bobby Itchner.
Yeah,
but
like fantastical version of it.
But like, he should have just been a comedian or writer. A podcaster. Podcasters aren't that famous. That's like a fantasy job. That's the equivalent of like Ted Mosby being an architect.
The last two movies we watched were both set in like a 2000 to 2006 setting. And one of the benefits to a movie like that is you don't have to tell a movie about people on their phones.
Yeah.
I thought this movie was very aware of the technology that we live with. And there's something just, I don't want to be watching a film about people on their phones.
But he wanted to write about Grindr. Like, he wanted to engage with that and the emptiness of that, I felt like.
Yeah, and to a degree, there was, the whole idea of taking a picture of your butt
I thought
in
that
order
was funny.
for the other person to block you immediately.
Yeah.
That is a legitimate experience. So some of this stuff was reflecting actual experiences on camera. I think the least successful parts of it were a little didactic, though, in that regard.
Sure.
It was like, I'm going to show you what it's like to be a gay man on your phone in the 21st century.
And Scott, tell me this. Have you had positive Grindr experiences that don't leave you feeling disgusted and empty?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been friends on Grindr.
Yeah.
I've been boyfriends on Grindr. Scruff.
That is
all of the above.
Did you say sniffy?
Yeah. You familiar with sniffies?
No.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. It's no
Sniffies is the app for people who
I should
don't even care to look at your face.
The only people I know who listen to this podcast are my parents and brother.
I really hope my parents don't listen to this.
Gay sex warning, I guess. So I thought that was one thing that's palpably missing. Like, Billy clearly has a lot of negative feelings about hookup culture and Grindr culture. And like watching it, like I'm more of a that's more resonant with me and my relationship to sex. But then I'm also like, but a lot of gay people actually do love this shit. Like it treads that line. Like it's addictive and it can become an empty soul crushing like feat of modern emptiness for sure. But also it can be a fun and freeing and liberating like place to sexually play in a way that like people weren't able to do before.
It facilitates a lot of meeting of queer people
Yeah,
and understanding that you're not alone, especially when you're traveling or when you're, in your childhood home. Just being able to talk to people, meet up with them. It
that's
doesn't have to be
true.
sexual,
I
but
never even
it's
thought of it from like the safety lens of like I'm in a small town, let me open Grinder. Phew, there's 300 gay people here.
oh yeah, it's totally been that for me before. To know that there's other queer people in the vicinity is so helpful.
Yeah, that's interesting. Grinder, I've only used a couple times and it freaks me out, like the immediacy of it and other people's access to it.
Then you really shouldn't go on Sniffies.
No, but like the fact that there's no matching, I hated that like anyone could message me.
Hmm.
And even if I set filters for myself, people outside those filters could still see and message me. That made me uncomfortable. But I thought that was a thing that was missing. Like it was a lot of criticism of this kind of gay lifestyle, but it didn't do much to engage with like the positives of it.
Yeah, and in that regard of like, who is this movie for? I think it was for straight people,
And Billy.
unfortunately. The
Like
yes,
it's for it definitely is for straight people in the fact that all movies are for straight people.
that's true.
But like this movie I think was also trying to speak to a subset of gay people, and like to me part of the message was like it's okay if this isn't doing it for you. Like
If this isn't enough.
this is a lot of what you'll encounter in the gay world, but like there's other people who think that that's empty and would
I like that reading. That's a
yeah.
good way to think about it.
Yeah, like I kind of see there's the party world and then there's Billy's like married gay friends who still are dating thirds and
Mhm.
whatever, but like yeah, it's like there's more to this. This is a small section. Um
Yeah,
that's
like
kind of what
if
I
it
was
like
getting from it.
okay, sure. If you're a gay man who identifies as a bro, if you came out late or if you didn't identify with the word gay for a long time, you probably have some hangups
Yeah.
and you probably hate yourself a little bit and you probably think you have to fit into a certain culture, hide yourself in certain places, take your shirt off and look ripped in other places. It's a really hard um, place to be accepted, or it feels that
Yeah.
way if you don't converge to the mean. I have had that experience when I came out. I lived in New York. I thought I had to look a certain way. I was working out twice a day. I was counting my carbs.
Yeah.
I wouldn't eat carbs for weeks. And
Yeah, I
I
mean, you
felt
went through
comfortable taking my shirt off, but it was not who I am and was not healthy. And
totally. Like even I mean, you went through years obviously of a lifetime of turmoil getting to the point where you would come out and like participate in gay culture in a way that wasn't like shameful, anonymous, you know, betrayals of the self. Uh, right? And then, like when you came out as gay, like that was great. Watching as your best friend, I was like, okay, Scott is definitely in a better place than he was. But then from the outside, observing you, like, yeah, there's a lot of toxic shit that you encounter that one encounters in this mask for mask scene in New York specifically, and probably LA, where I
yeah,
felt like you got taken for some rides down some other toxic shit, you know?
yeah, definitely. I have experienced the gamut of the gay world,
Yeah.
and I've only been out for 5 years, so I really
Yeah.
dove head first. So no,
Yeah.
in that regard, I think this is a that's a helpful framing for the movie, is to think about here's an alternative. It's funny because I came into this prejudging Billy a lot, and I don't particularly think that's his message, but I think that is the message of the movie.
I think it's the message of
It's
the
one of the
movie.
messages.
I don't know if it's his message or not. I mean, I think he tried to be sympathetic to Aaron. Like, as we're talking, I think what I'm realizing is Bros isn't a very good movie, but Bros consists of two movies that I think actually could have been really good that were crammed together in the rom-com archetype.
The museum piece.
Yeah, so I think Bobby in the museum piece would have been a hilarious like workplace comedy. Honestly, make it a TV show. Like make it
Parks and Rec.
Community, make it
Totally.
Parks and Rec. Like the board of this LGBTQ plus museum with all these crazy characters, the Bowen Yangs, like that was just a different movie.
Yeah.
All those characters were like heightened in a way that was really fun, but
And
was
seeing them
not
interact
carried through.
together, like hearing the LGBTQ plus
Yeah, it was really fun.
representatives in a room together playing off each other, by far the most successful part of the movie.
Yeah, way the best. Like I thought that would have been one good movie or TV show. Countered with the other story, which I think could have been good, that actually would have probably fit better for Nicholas Stoller. Like the better fit for the Judd Apatow archetype would have had the protagonist be Aaron, like working
Coming
through what
out,
you were just
working through
talking about.
sexuality, right?
Like, he can start gay, but realizing, like, working through, starting from where he starts at the movie and ending with him accepting that it's okay for him to be a faggy little chocolatier and, like, that doesn't, like,
Oh my
undercut his
god,
masculinity. And, like, that would have been
you're
a good
so
movie.
right. Aaron should have been the protagonist of this movie. If you're talking about the Judd Apatow universe, having one of the masculine,
Bros.
like,
Having the bro.
having one of the bros who's like random stoner in Pineapple Express, or one of the bros in that End of the World movie or whatever, realize he's gay. That's where this movie starts.
I think it could even, like, literally, it could have just been Aaron.
I know.
With some more weed, but like he could literally be like recently out broy lawyer hot guy who does a lot of fucking and lives this like meaningless fuck life.
But it has decided or has some experience that forces him to engage with the community,
Right.
that he's
I
now
think
a part of, and
yeah.
that he sits at the top of, right? Like
The
in
sexual
the
pecking order.
right, in the pecking order of how the rest of the world sees this, the white cis broy masculine passing man who happens to be gay, that's the one with the most power.
Yeah. I did like that one. The Billy had a line where he's like, oh yeah, so he's like just had this dinner with Aaron's family and Aaron's gotten mad at him for like being too gay and freaking his parents out. Even though his parents weren't really freaked out. Like Aaron just decided that they would be. But then like Bobby goes to his like queer museum friends and is like trying to express his feelings on this moment and gets shut down basically like, hey, I'm a black trans woman, you don't think I understand. And he's like, oh, I'm too gay for Aaron's world, but I'm not gay enough for this world. Like, and like I, as someone who is a fairly open with my other trans queer friends, that I definitely have some homophobia towards the cis gay male community that I feel sometimes, where like I get where that trans character was coming from. Like I also do get where Billy is coming from. There, like the fact that like the cis white gay male for a lot of people that you'll see online or whatever, like, oh, that's no longer considered any sort of like oppressed community.
Mm-hmm.
Like what are you whining about? And it's like, well, like gay men are still very much an oppressed community who suffer
And
a lot of shit.
a lot of it is less, we're in the oppression games. Who is more oppressed,
Right?
When we think about it as like in this stage of where we live in society. But as queer people, we all grow up in some sort of similar way of not feeling like we fit in,
Yeah.
or being in a place where we don't see anyone like us. And so in that regard, I think most queer people, maybe it's changing, but at least millennial and older, have some sort of kinship in the way that their queerness made them feel different when they were growing up, and trying to change, like, equate a white cis bro experience who was on the football team but actually gay, me, versus a trans lesbians experience who was at the same school. Like, we couldn't even talk to each other.
We couldn't talk to each other about being queer. I mean, yeah, all cards on the table. Like, sure, you were like on the football team. I wasn't being bullied either. Like, I was class president and like
captain of the swim team.
Like, neither of us were bullied for being queer.
No. We said before, neither of us were ever called faggot.
We were just bullying ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, it's like
right.
And that's what Aaron's story is. It's like internalized homophobia. It's internalized toxic masculinity. It's the constantly undercutting his own ability to like actualize into the person he really would enjoy being and existing in. Like, that's, if the Judd Apatow protagonist starts in like a weed induced like stasis, then I feel like Aaron starts out in his own internalized toxic masculinity induced stasis. He has this destination of being a faggy chocolatier, making pretty little chocolates that like he knows would bring him joy, but he's unable to take steps that way. He just exists in this job that he hates, doing stuff that brings him temporary physical pleasure, and he can't move past that because he's hitting this internal wall. And I think that's an interesting story to tell. I also think, in the sense that that's a fairly universal story. Like, we're all working
it's not even
on
queer. It's a pretty male story.
That's a pretty universal male story. And then I think a lot of human stories from whatever community you're in follow that structure. It's just you're internalizing whatever fucked up shit you've internalized.
Exactly.
About yourself, about
what you should and shouldn't do.
Yeah, I think that maybe we should just write that movie. Maybe
I think it's a really interesting point. Aaron should have been the protagonist of this movie.
Yeah,
and I think that there's something really interesting in the bros aspect of it that almost like Bobby's character didn't engage in very much. He kind of gets there towards the end where he puts on a different voice and he's like, could I get more action if I pretend?
I really liked that scene, actually.
I wish it had come earlier.
Yeah, it would have helped a lot.
Yeah, it would have helped set the scene of like, what is this movie about? And the idea is he's at the gym trying to get the body type that he thinks is the most attractive, or that's getting other people the kind of sex that he wants to have. And he hits on a guy by being bro-y and by lowering his voice. An experience that I have definitely had.
And not just lowering his voice, but like code switching out of his gay voice and into just like bro voice.
They cut from the gym to postcoital in bed, and he lets go of the voice. He goes back to his normal Bobby voice, and the guy he's in bed with freaks out.
Like, yeah, he's like, "What are you?
Whoa, what happened to your
psychopath?
voice?
Are you gonna murder me?" I thought it was hilarious. Yeah.
And then he even asked a question. He's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. This is crazy, but had I just talked this way at first, would you still have slept with me?" And he goes, "Yeah, probably."
Yeah, but not now.
But not now.
And then he sees that this, jacked, traditionally masculine appearing dude has a huge Barbra Streisand poster. And he's like, okay. In the same way that he was afraid people judged him for being too femme and faggy, he was judging this man and reducing him just to the fact that he was at the gym.
Right.
Ergo must be super mask.
Yeah, all gay men have a favorite diva. There's a tweet that went around. It was like, when you are born as a gay man, you are assigned a diva at birth to stan, and no one can take it.
I know you love Beyonce.
Yeah, I identify with that strongly, and that's kind of what this scene is saying. It's like, yeah, this guy may look jacked, but like he's playing that character on TV. We all grew up the same way. We just put on these body types, or we become the characters that we feel like we have to be in order to fit in.
Yeah, there's I was just encountering this thing recently. I can't remember what it was, where I saw it again, but like there's this misconception that people like Jordan Peele and like not Jordan Peele, Jordan Peterson, extremely different. The misconception that people like Jordan Peterson and sort of like red pill manosphere incel types have, where they think like women wear makeup in order to make themselves more appealing to men. And you get all these guys who are like, I wish women wouldn't wear makeup. I like them better, which is light, all natural, and maybe just mascara. Like, you don't need to do that, baby. And because it's like, oh no, but y'all don't understand. Like, they're not putting it on because they think you'll like it. They're putting it on, first of all, because they like it. And second of all, like, usually girls putting a lot of effort into makeup are trying to impress other girls.
Mm-hmm.
Whether they're straight or not, like whether they're lesbian or not. Straight girls do this too. Like, they know that insert random straight guy isn't going to appreciate all the work they've put into their contouring and eyeshadow and stuff. They're not trying to be sexy to men. In the same way, these like hyper jacked gym bros who might think that they're getting hyper jacked and appearing hyper masculine to be sexy to women, when women usually find that off putting.
Mm-hmm.
Like, enter the mask for mask gay scene, and what do people do? They get fucking jacked because that's what men like.
100%. I have said this before that straight men who are too jacked are just looking for compliments from gay men.
Yeah, no,
And I'm
I
more
would
than
not.
happy to give them that compliment. I go to weddings now of people who I went to college with, and the number of men who because I put out very gay energy, but I do it in a way that's like I'm just myself.
Yeah,
The number of men who come up to me who actively are hitting on me, who I had no idea were even interested,
yeah,
it's shocking.
yeah. It's interesting.
It's the ones who keep up with themselves. It's the ones who just want attention from men because they're the ones who are like going to the gym every day and whatever. And women don't
Right, and
care.
that's what. I mean, that's yeah, and that's fine. Like, I'm not saying that like men shouldn't get jacked even if they're straight. Do whatever the fuck you want. The point is that you're doing it for you and for your bros.
Yeah.
Like, you're doing it for your friends on the bodybuilding forum.
So there's one other scene related to this that I wanted to touch on. And I thought it was a little bit irresponsible, the
Okay.
steroid use.
Oh yeah,
Because
testosterone shot.
yeah, the testosterone shot, it happens in the bathroom. He just like, Bobby walks in on Aaron in the bathroom. He's doing a shot of testosterone of his butt, in his butt.
And he freaks out.
And he yeah, but then it kind of goes away very quickly, and it's like, well, this is just what you do. And I feel like it never had a
Have you ever
point.
used steroids?
I have never used steroids. I'm very proudly not a steroid user.
And for
because-
reference, like, Scott, I don't know what you look like now, but definitely Scott has been all sorts of levels of jacked.
I go to the gym. I really am into pizza right now, so I would say that there's muscle like underneath a layer of
Dude, I've eaten
thickness.
so many Girl Scout cookies in the last few weeks. It's winter. It's hibernation season.
Exactly. I like my thickness. I'm very happy with it.
Yeah.
But in order to get there, it did take a lot of effort. And I'm very proud that I've never taken steroids because I do feel like it is a
is it something you see? Is it common?
I was going to say it is so prevalent. It feels normal.
Oh, okay.
Once you get to a certain type of party, or once you go down this rabbit hole of the gay world in New York or LA, especially if you start traveling, there's a body type that you literally cannot achieve on your own.
Yeah.
You have to use testosterone and steroids to get there.
Right.
And
the Marvel body. Yeah,
correct. And a lot of athletes do them too because they think they have to in order to keep up. It's a not a good thing for masculinity in general. And the craziest part about it is that the immediate effects are very they go straight to your head, right? It works.
Yeah.
But then the side effects make it so obvious that you did steroids that it's like, why did you do this? Yeah. Like, you can tell so quickly that someone did steroids that I have gotten to a point now where I put them in a different category. I'm like, oh, that guy achieved this through the shortcut.
Feels like cheating.
I still can find them hot, but I no longer am like, oh, they're untouchable because they look that way, which is sort of what they think or want to achieve. For me, it's like the opposite. It's like, oh, you want attention so badly that you were willing to body modify in a certain way that was going
So
to like shorten your lifespan, make you so angry, give you acne all across your back, make your balls tiny. It's so
I
obvious
mean,
that you
you don't
did
got to tell me about the downsides of testosterone. I'm not a fan. I
that.
mean, I know trans men who love it and what it does for them, but also trans men are not taking extra testosterone. They're getting up to baseline
Right.
testosterone,
They need it
you
to
know?
achieve their version
Yeah,
of
like
masculinity.
if you want to be if you want to have a traditionally like mask body, testosterone, some level of testosterone is necessary. But once you start having like too much, that's when it's really unhealthy.
And I want to clarify also that there's a certain age at which your body stops producing a certain amount of testosterone. So I know a lot of men in their late 40s and 50s and 60s who do it as a supplement to help put that level of testosterone
Yeah,
up back to the normal amount.
just like lots of cis women take hormones after entering menopause because
Yeah. What
like
I'm
the
talking
hormonal
about is
imbalance is bad for you. But
yeah, it's the guys in their 20s and their 30s who feel like they have to do this to keep up with the scene that I think it's harmful, and I think that this movie didn't do a good job of addressing that part, that like you shouldn't be doing this.
I think it would be interesting to see like the other thing to keep in mind with anything coming out of Hollywood, especially a big production like this, like big fancy producers and shit. It's always interesting to, to wonder like what was in the original script, what was in the Billy Eichner cut. You know, like this is what made it through the cishet censors, which means like there probably was a lot more direct engagement with queer shit in the original.
Hmm.
Um, I I totally can see where you're coming from. I didn't have any thoughts one way or another about the steroids as I watched them because it's not a part of my life.
It's a small point. I think most of it was a positive view and sort of allowing a little more vulnerability for
Yeah,
the mask gay culture. I think that the Barbara Streisand poster was a good example. I think that the chocolates, like kind of a silly trope as it is, I think it
it's
is an
very much
experience.
that's the point of the movie where you're like, okay, yeah, it's just giving in and being a rom com.
Yeah, totally. That was very Hallmark.
Yeah, and they even the movie is very lampshady about Hallmark movies. As far as the steroids go, I do think like I agree with you that the movie could have been maybe more explicit if it had a point of view on them. I appreciate that it included them though, because like especially from the lens of watching it as 14, 15-year-old Scott, like knowing that okay, the reason Luke McFarlane looks like that is because he takes
He took the
testosterone.
shortcut. Yeah.
Like that's not a realistic body type. I shouldn't feel insecure if I'm not living up to that.
Okay, I like that reading. That's a good point.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
because
know.
then
I really do think
Bobby,
that if I was not Scott Wise, COO of Nasty Pig in New York City right now, I would
right?
have liked this movie quite a bit more.
But like that's interesting. Like I do find that your perspective is like kind of uniquely like insightful. Um Bobby does try steroids later and it
Mhm.
does make him really angry. And he just like storms around the museum like I'm angry because of the steroids.
Oh,
I'm
that's
roid
true.
rage. Like the movie's not like pro steroids.
I guess
He
that's
takes
yeah,
them out
that's
of
true.
desperation and he has a bad time. Um
So let's talk about the other movie within the movie, because
yeah,
one movie is about me, and
sure.
in a lot of ways, the other movie you could be a part of.
Yeah, I could have been a part of that.
And I'm curious, how was your experience watching that part? What did you think of the bisexual and the lesbian and the trans representation?
I thought that was funnier. I mean, that's a much more heightened reality than the other half of the movie. I felt like um
Yeah, more like
like
an SNL skit or something.
more sketchy, more Parks and Rec-y. Um I liked all the characters. I didn't know that like the white trans actress Tamara or whatever the character's name was. Um
She has some
when she
great line deliveries.
Oh yeah, she was very funny. Like when I thought it was Patty Harrison at first, and then I looked and I was like, oh wait, that's not Patty Harrison. But that's very much like a white trans woman kind of trope archetype that's developed now of this like sassy sort of, I don't know really how to describe that archetype, but I feel like she and Patty Harrison play the same type.
Yeah, it's a little like dumb almost.
Kind of bimbo-y,
Yeah,
kind of
bimbo-y, terminally online.
super online, not taking things seriously enough. Like yeah. And you know, I've known those girls.
Me too.
I I thought the portrayal of the bisexual side of the LGBTQ plus debate was very funny.
Yeah, that was really good.
He could be bisexual, just constantly like we don't know. I thought that was funny. The
More
constant,
bi representation.
we need more bi representation. That was funny, and you know, like that's a whole complicated subject that I think to some extent is totally legitimate, and to some extent comes across as silly as it does in this movie. Like when there's a scene in the movie when they're all trying to decide like what should go in the final room of this museum, and Bobby really wants it to be these love letters that Abraham Lincoln wrote to men over the course of his life that are easily interpretable as kind of expressions of gay love. And so he's like, yeah, I want the Lincoln letters. I want this depiction of our first gay president, Abraham Lincoln, who like slept in the same bed with men, who wrote these intimate love letters to men. And then the bisexual character, the dean from Community, coming in and being like, well, he was married to a woman, so like if anything, he was bisexual. Which
that's
first
what
of all,
it means to be married to a woman.
First of all, that's not what it means. Second of all, the strict identitarian like fight over the label gay versus bisexual for historical figures doesn't fucking matter. Like everyone's bisexual. First of all, to some extent, everyone has at least the one, unless you're ace. And then I feel like what was relevant to Bobby and to us as like modern people looking back at history was the fact that Abraham Lincoln experienced gay love and gay feelings for men. Whether or not he also experienced love and feelings for women is kind of besides the point, because those parts of Abraham Lincoln's life aren't being excised from history. Oh, we're getting to look down view. Like that part of Abraham Lincoln isn't excised. Kids have plenty of exposure to that. And whether or not Abraham Lincoln was gay or exclusively homosexual doesn't matter, because what's relevant to young queer kids and queer people looking back at history was like there were gay feelings happening no matter what soup they were a part of.
Right. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, great.
Like I would have loved the Lincoln letters to be part of the museum exhibit. That was like the legitimate thing. I felt like Billy Eichner clearly read LGBTQ plus history by.
You told me to read that.
It's a Queer History of the United States is the book, but it has a lot of that stuff, like letters by Michael Bronsky. Overall, it's a pretty transphobic book, but does a lot of great work at like finding letters like that, like Abraham Lincoln, or letters between George Washington and Lafayette, like where you do have to read between the lines because no one was going to openly be like, my dearest Lafayette, how I love sucking your penis in a way that is very homosexual. I mean, Washington was clearly the top anyway, but
what did you think about the
now
lesbian?
I can't hear you. Did you turn your mic off? Well, we do have to have at least one Scott. Oh, wait, no, it's my fault this time.
No.
Now I can hear you.
Okay, great. We'll edit that out.
That was my fault. I turned my.
Normally, it's my fault.
Down.
I just got in the mail at an Amazon locker all my new audio equipment.
Yeah. If you're in New York, Scott's address is.
Okay, so there was some. I thought there were some funny jokes. This is a pretty common joke, but I think it's still relevant about how we've left a lot of things up to gay men to do in the world, and we should just let lesbians do it because they are much more capable of doing everything that we think gay men should be doing.
Yeah. What's her face from Will and Grace makes that joke. First of all, it's not true. Anyone who's spent 5 minutes on Lex knows that lesbians are really fucking messy and all over the place. The idea of the capable butch lesbian is just as much a trope as the hysterical, faggy, effeminate gay man. But yeah, no, there were some good jokes. I appreciated how much he tried to incorporate other parts of the queer world.
I thought that was a very clever way to include a representative in a movie called Bros about cis gay men, a representative from LGBTQ plus.
Yeah, no, it was good. I would watch that TV show, The Museum. It might get old. I mean, it really depends. Like, that's a TV show that could be really good, or it could be really cringe and
Mm-hmm.
liberal. Like, Democrat.
Yeah, no, I know.
Like, I wanted to see him smash the bust of Pete Buttigieg. Pete doesn't belong in a museum.
So we've talked a lot about the actual things that happen in the movie. There was another part of the movie that I just found unsuccessful, and it was the acting.
Oh yeah, Billy Eichner's not an actor.
I thought the acting was horrendous, and it took me out of the movie quite often. I thought the line readings were abysmal. Like, you could have a funny joke, but like it was delivered so poorly that it was like, it's almost like you see the joke on paper and you're like, that's funny.
Yeah. So Billy Eichner is a talented comedian who, on his show Billy on the Street, he works because he's grading and a lot. And what's funny is not Billy Eichner is not what's funny. What's funny is watching regular people unexpectedly being harassed by Billy Eichner and watching how they react to his like obnoxious like roughness.
And it's all improv too.
And it's all improv. He's talented at that.
Right. He's really good at these cultural references. He's very gay. And, you know, he just like retains a lot of these things. And so, which is true of a lot of gay men, right? Like, I just have a brain for pop culture. It's something that many gay men experience. It's a syndrome, if you will. And Billy's able to kind of weaponize it in a very clever improv way on his show. I think here he drops a lot of them, and like the visual puns are really funny. I thought things like a Holly Polly Christmas was clever, and then there was some like funny.
It's snowing on all 7 of us.
Yeah, I thought that was clever.
Yeah, it's funny stuff.
But then he would say some that just like, I wish you weren't saying this right now.
He's better improvised, which isn't a criticism because I'm an improv actor, and improv is simply a different art form. Some things work in improv that don't work scripted, and vice versa. You know, he got praise for his role as a gay side character in The Neighbors 2, and that makes sense to me. Like, Billy is he makes sense as a bit character, a side character, a presence to add texture to a movie or a TV show, but it doesn't work as a leading character, which again is not an insult. CJ the X is a non-binary YouTuber who does like art criticism and kind of aesthetic philosophy stuff. But they have a video that I watched recently called The Kronk Effect, where they talk about the character Kronk from
Emperor's New
Groove.
I love Kronk.
And they're like, Kronk is everyone's favorite part of the first movie, right? And he's great. Like, he's amazing. Patrick Warburton does an amazing job. He's talented. He's hilarious, and everyone loves him. Then they come out with The Emperor's New Groove 2, which is Kronk's New Groove, and it doesn't work.
No one wants to watch a movie about Kronk.
No one wants to watch it. It's a bad movie. And yeah, like the main point is it's kind of looking at like, okay, why doesn't this work? The main point is like some things just only work in small doses and they don't work as the basis. You know, like you want a chocolate chip cookie. You don't want a disc of chocolate covered in cookie crumbs. And I feel like that's how Billy Eichner is as he's a character player. He plays himself and he makes great texture in things. And when he is the leading man, it needs to be in that Billy on the Street vibe.
I know, even as himself, I still don't think it works.
No, he's not
I
a
don't
good
think he's a
actor. That's
leading
not
man.
his strength, which is not a kid. That's fine. He's good at a lot of stuff.
I know he wrote a good movie and then he ruined it by course.
And I didn't think Luke McFarlane was a good actor either, to be honest.
No, he didn't add much. I thought he did fine.
At the level of script, it's hard to know, but I'm kind of tempted to say, like, I doubt that this script was worse than the script of Forgetting Sarah Marshall. But the
I know what you
actors
mean.
in Forgetting Sarah Marshall, Mila Kunis, Jason Segel, Russell Brand, and Veronica Mars.
I know. I think of her name as Veronica Mars too.
I don't know her name.
Kristen Bell.
Kristen Bell. Like, they're all really talented, funny actors, and they bring that script like to life in a way that this movie doesn't. This movie feels like a sketch show, and that movie feels like a movie.
No, I'm with you. I think the ending was dumb.
So dumb.
It was very "Don't Make Me Sing." It was very like Billy Eichner secretly can sing, so I'm going to write a scene for myself
I
where I
couldn't
sing a
tell if he
song.
sang that or not.
I think he did. I
The
think
way
he's
that-
actually like. I think he's very much like, I am a singer and I'm going to write a song for myself in this movie.
Yeah, which is funny. No, like I assumed he sang it, but then I like actually waited through the credits just to see if it was listed. And that's the one song in the credits that includes the written by Billy Eichner and other guy, but doesn't have the performed by section, whereas
you
all
don't
the
think
other
he sang
songs
it?
do have the performed by. I was just wondering.
Wow.
He might have.
Conspiracy.
It's not conspiracy. Like
I
most
assumed he sang it.
a lot of movie actors don't sing the songs that they perform in the movie.
Nowadays, I think they do. I think people can tell lip syncing a lot easier.
Do they? He played Timon in the Lion King remake,
Oh, yeah, he did.
which I forgot. Not a good choice for that.
That was a tough watch.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, I thought the song was really cringe.
Yeah, hated it. Their montage about their love scenes.
Oh my god,
like,
that was bad, trite, bad. Why I just didn't get why Aaron wanted to go back to him. Like, he'd got what he wanted from Billy. He was making chocolates. Why did he need to go back to Bobby now? Why did he need to go embrace this like traditional like structure of relationship that the whole movie was critical of? And Billy Eichner's not in one, so Billy Eichner himself is probably critical of it. Are you okay? What's going on over there? Scott's having audio
I can't hear you.
issues.
Can you hear
Bear
me?
with us. I can hear you. What is happening with your headphones, Scott? Or is it me? Maybe I'm the one who isn't making sound.
Scott? Scott, can you hear me?
Scott will be right back. While we're waiting for Scott, how about a word from our sponsors? We love our sponsors over at Defundable. Are you trying to lose a lot of money? Try Defundable. They'll empty your bank account. All you have to do is give them your bank login information, your mother's maiden name, your childhood nickname, and your favorite animal, and Defundable will make you absolutely broke. And now
I'm
back to our show. Hi, Scott.
I don't know why my audio keeps messing up.
Yeah. I don't know.
Should we
I don't
end
really have anything else to say about Bros.
I was gonna say, should we recap our convo? Did you change
Yeah.
your opinion at all?
Not really. I didn't have any sort of formed opinion coming in. I thought it was like I don't mind a bad rom-com. I can enjoy watching a bad rom-com. This felt like a perfectly fine bad rom-com that tried to depict some gay stuff legitimately, and I thought for the most part, like, respectfully and authentically, even if like it's not the movie that the COO of Nasty Pig is like, oh, there's stuff that's missing here, like, totally. But I do think he was working in good faith to try to make something beneficial for queer people.
Yeah, I think my experience of watching the movie was cringe and overly critical because I know too much. I had the same experience watching Fire Island, the movie, because I
The Bo and
did you
Yang one
the,
or the awful slasher?
the Bo and Yang movie.
I don't think Bo and Yang's. He's to me probably similar. I haven't seen that movie. I would guess it's similar to Billy Eichner, where I think he's smart and funny, and I think I liked him as this side character, but I just don't buy him as a leading man, I guess.
Oh, I think he's the only good part of that movie. I
Oh,
think Joel
really?
Kim Booster
I
and
should
Bo
watch
Yang.
it before I talk about movies. Maybe we should watch that movie.
I was gonna say we could do not.
I don't want
next,
to do that one next. Yeah.
not next, but I would add Fire Island to our list for sure.
Have you seen
we
Carol?
No, I haven't.
Oh my god,
You
that's
want
our
to do
next
Carol?
movie. Yeah.
Okay, great. Have you?
Once I was a guest on Laser is my friend who is a trans man, and he has a podcast. He has a podcast called Carol, where he and the co-host invite a guest every episode to watch and talk about Carol. And they've got like
That's
50
commitment.
or 60 something episodes, and like Laser, I don't remember his co-host name, I'm sorry, but they watch Carol every time, and they bring in a guest who either has or hasn't seen Carol, and they get them
Oh
to
my
watch it,
God.
and they just talk about Carol again.
Again.
It's very funny. And Laser, well, the bit is Laser's just like, okay, and what'd you think about the diner scene? But we should talk about
it's a
Carol, and maybe
funny
I'll
joke in
message
theory.
Laser and see if he wants to join us.
Yeah, I would love to watch Carol. It's been on my list for a while.
Yeah.
But yeah, Fire Island. My issue with it was that watching it, I was so close to it. Right, like I've lived those experiences. I know
For
the
reference,
beats.
Fire Island is a beach town near New York City that a lot of the New York City gays go to party.
Yes, and so it was hard for me to enjoy the movie. I think its success has made me question my own viewing of it. I've only seen it once, which is why I would be open because it was very successful. Yeah. And so it made me think, like, is being too close to this making me overly critical? If I was able to watch it with like a fresh set of eyes, would I find this movie any better?
Well, let's
Spoiler, I don't think I will. But
you have a list, right? You have a list for every movie we come up with that we want to watch eventually.
Sort of starting one, I guess now. Now I do.
No, you have a list. I don't have a list. I'm not gonna have a list.
I have a list now. I do. Okay. And so I came into this conversation feeling pretty negative about the movie. I think I've since gotten more positive about it because being able to take away my experience and viewing it a little bit more like, what would a teenage version of me feel if this movie came out? I think I would feel a lot more positively about it. And I think it's good generally for the culture and for society that this exists.
I agree with that. I think the movie itself is fine. I came into it with the perspective of like, I don't know, it seems like kind of a bad rom-com, but otherwise I didn't have any qualms with it from the gay side. But I do think you brought up some legitimate points about it that are worth thinking about.
I have, sorry to interrupt, I have one other comment, which is around the looks. You know, we sort of brought this up at the very beginning.
Oh yeah,
there's an objectively hotter man in the couple, and I think that it takes you out of it a little bit. I think it's kind of hard not to recognize that, and they even address it a little bit. But
well, it's like what his big insecurity is. It's like that's one of the plot drivers.
And in many ways, like that is a very straight experience. It is the schlubby man with the personality, the funny one, with the super hot girl that, you know, we've seen this rom-com over and over again all of our lives. It's sort of starting to change. I think men are more objectified than they used to be, and so you can't really have a Jack Black dating Charlize Theron type movie anymore.
And I do want to clarify, you will see gay couples that look like this. It's just that the schlubby guy is the top.
Yeah, that totally is true.
But like the less attractive person in the relationship is not going to be the bottom.
No, that's insane.
It's insane. A top, like Aaron is a top in the movie. Like, and you know, like they're versed.
Aaron's
like
2 years and a little bit of Molly away from being a total bottom.
Maybe, yeah. I believe you.
Anyway,
Yeah,
I
but like,
just want to close the loop on that point because I brought it up
no, I
sort of
think
at
it's
the
fair.
very
And
beginning.
not that Billy Eichner is like an objectively bad looking guy. It's just that Aaron is like a literal like Hollywood hot guy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
anyway.
and you're right. I think like in gay relationships, this is just it doesn't read like you believe it. I think there was a lot of chemistry missing. I think there was a lot of like background to them that I didn't get why they were together at all.
Yeah,
And so that made
Aaron's
the
character isn't developed enough to really
right.
buy it.
It made the romantic part of the movie a little harder to watch and a little harder to believe. And I think on a rom-com, you have to be rooting for the couple or you have to believe that they are meant to be together or something like that.
Do you? Like, I don't know. I kind of think about this scene. I don't know. I think back to like Along Came Polly. Why was Jennifer Aniston into Ben Stiller in that movie? You know?
Well, that's I'm saying the same thing. I'm saying this reads straight to me.
Right. And that's yeah, but to me I'm just saying it like fits into the long heritage of rom-coms where like you don't really get it. It's part of the suspension of disbelief in the genre. You go watch a fantasy movie, you don't ask how'd he throw that fireball? You watch a rom-com, you just accept that the hotter one's into the less hot.
I'm gonna
I know, I'm just kidding. I agree with you. It makes it less viable, and it does play into that's part of the rom-com tropiness of it.
Yes, exactly. And I think that those parts were the least successful parts of the movie. But I think that there were some very clever jokes. I think there was a lot of good visual humor and gags. And I thought that the museum was an amazing part of the movie that I wish had been built out more. And I wish that had been the movie.
It's actually interesting, like now thinking back, having had this discussion, the two characters kind of take on different parts of the rom-com relationship. Like Aaron is the hot guy. He's the hot one. He's the hot girl. He's the Zooey Deschanel. But Bobby is the manic pixie dream person who convinces the like boring hates their life man to pursue their silly passion and take pleasure in who they are. So in that sense, it's like it doesn't directly map one to one. It hits the tropes, but they're dispersed between the couple.
Yeah. No,
and it's like, does that work as well? I don't know.
No, I don't think it does.
Well, I mean, I don't think that the classic we're not saying the classic rom-com works.
That's
We're
true.
saying this didn't work either.
I'm going to give Billy an A for effort, and I appreciate making this movie, and I feel bad that it tanked as hard as it did.
Yeah.
I wanted to read you.
We maintain the right to apply our X out of 37 scores however we want. They do not have to be objective measurements of movie quality or recommendations. We could take social considerations in. We could take anything we want to in.
Yes, I think that the press of this movie turned me against it before I had even seen it. Can I read you what the press said? That this was the tagline. One of the first romantic comedies from a major studio to feature an almost entirely 2S LGBTQIA plus cast.
All right.
That says so little.
That's
one
joke.
Of the first
it's
to
a joke.
feature an almost like.
Yeah, it's a joke. I think that's like it's parodying Disney being like, this is our movie, our first openly gay character. Disney's had a movie with its first openly gay character like 7 times now.
I don't think this was a joke. I think this was.
You don't think it was a joke?
No, I think it was a legitimate press strategy. We're going big on gay. Gay's cool now.
I feel like that has to be a joke.
Well, it didn't land.
No. But like, I don't know. It's oh, we didn't talk about the wrestling scene or the scene in the park. Those are the best. I liked those scenes too.
Oh, the wrestling scene was good because it showed vulnerability in a gay couple. It's not just all sex. Like they want to cuddle at the end. Like
I liked the cuddling specifically. I was like, I'm glad they included this.
That was very real. That's a thing that you go out and you fuck and you meet guys and whatever. But like that's what everyone actually wants.
Yeah,
it's very hard
cuddling.
to talk about it. Yeah.
Everyone's a sub.
Yeah, it showed some vulnerability in a way that I think was missing.
And if you're out there and you're listening and you like cuddling, you're a submissive little bitch, aren't you? Sometimes we've got to dom the audience. Sorry, Mom and Dad and Henry.
I wrote a couple, just some other notes that I wrote before we get to our ranking. Their foursome to "Dreaming with a Broken Heart" by John Mayer. I thought that was a fun.
Steve.
That was a different
you
one.
about Steve.
That was
the first foursome.
That was the first foursome. Then there was the Steve foursome.
Yeah.
Every orgy has a Steve.
Busted.
For
reference, 3 people who wanted to be in the orgy and Steve who invited himself on in. And
it's really hard to say no
let him in.
once you have a certain quorum.
And it's like, well,
one additional person is like, this is just mean at this point to say no. So I guess
we'll let him be there while we all fuck each other.
Yeah.
Have you been a Steve?
Undoubtedly.
Would you know if you were the Steve?
I've definitely been a Steve, but I don't think I try to extricate myself from those situations pretty quickly.
Yeah. Steve should have realized he wasn't wanted.
Yeah.
But
I think I've known, but sometimes if you're a Steve, you don't know.
Sometimes you're a Steve. Sometimes you're even a Steve when your own partner's involved.
The dinner with the parents scene, I wrote in all caps, "I hate Bobby." That sort of turned me against him. I think he willfully made everyone hate. He went so far above and beyond.
But the movie is open about that. That doesn't make him likable, but I think the movie agrees with you.
But it also makes me not want to root for him. Him singing a song at the end after being a bad guy. I'm just I don't want to listen to you sing a 3-minute cringy song for a montage with a guy who's way out of your league, who you've been an asshole to.
We both agree Aaron should do better.
I just hated Bobby.
Bobby can't do Bobby. But Bobby can't do better.
No.
Bobby got... I mean, that's when you write the movie.
I wrote a couple lines down. One, gay sex was more fun when straight people were uncomfortable with it.
That's true.
I totally agree.
Yeah, his sister? Was that his sister? He's called Uncle Bobby, but it was never clear if that was.
No, I think it's just they're straight best friends.
Yeah, so the straight couple
all my friends are having all my friends are having kids. I'm Uncle Scott to all of them, including the one I'm actually related to. And then at the end, one of the members of the board says, "Oh my God, do you guys remember Straight People?"
Yeah, that was funny. They had a good run.
That is my experience. I forget Straight People often.
You can't really be in the improv world and not encounter straight people. But look, I have a lot of straight friends. Okay. Yeah, no. Sometimes I love being in all queer spaces. Do you guys remember straight people experience recently was on my LARP Discord. The Discord for my specific LARPing community. There's a subset of the broader LARP we go to. And a bunch of people who are straight people, cis straight people in their kind of 30s and 40s were making a series of raunchy jokes. Very innuendo-y, sentences that included the word finger. And at first, I was just observing, I wasn't participating. And at first I was I think that the bit is that they're not actually that raunchy, right? They're treating it as though it's really naughty, but they're not saying anything bad. Until I realized, no, I just hang out in a space where people openly talk about fisting. And that
that's my problem.
Yeah. And
straight people
this probably
are uncomfortable with sex.
Straight people are so uncomfortable with sex.
They never have to confront it in a way that gay people or queer people do. And such, queer people have so much more comfortability.
We had a throuple staying with us a few weekends ago, and we were going to go out to somewhere, get lunch. And one of them was like, "Oh wait, I need my hanky," and they had to go get their red handkerchief for their left pocket. And I was like, "Are you
Are
you're
you
not
trying
actually
to fist someone at the?
Yeah, I was like, you're not actually trying to fist someone today, are you? And they're like, no, fuck no. I just need people to know.
Man, this
It's
is
like
an Arby's.
a fashion accessory thing.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, I thought it was funny. It was laugh with funny. They thought it was funny too, but it was like, but that's like a kind of an inside baseball joke. Like,
Yeah, very. It's
Yeah.
very you had to be there, or if you know,
Yeah.
you know. So
Anyway.
we've been talking for an hour and a half.
Yeah,
Let's
that's it.
Let's
We got
rate
its
this
rating.
bitch.
Let's rate this bitch. Let's rate this bitch. As we say, our podcast slogan, let's rate this bitch. You can buy the t-shirts now, available at shopify.nerdsquad.com. Don't go there. That's a fake website. Okay.
Do you want me to go first?
I can go first. I think you went first. Oh, no, because I went first last time because I'd already made it public. All right, you go first.
Yeah, my score is quite a bit higher than I expected to give it, but I'm going to give this one a 27 out of 37.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like that. 27?
27.
That's higher than Saltburn. I definitely had more fun watching Saltburn.
Oh man, that's a tough one.
I think
we can't do this way. We can't rate it that way. That's how Pitchfork does it. They like give it a rating and then they look at all the albums that were like around it and they're like, no, this is better than this one. We can't do that. We're 3 episodes in.
Yeah, I know, but to try to maintain, we'll do like after 10, maybe we'll do the big reevaluation.
That's fair.
But bearing in mind, I think I gave Saltburn like a 27 or a 28, and I definitely like Saltburn more, but I definitely like this one better than Bottoms, which I give an 18. So I'm just gonna put this in the middle to try to build my spectrum here. So I'll say like 23 or 24.
Okay, you're right. I liked Saltburn better. Okay,
I'm
25.
I'm calling this one a 23. So
25.
24 out of 37 is the official Nerd Squad rating. 24 out of 37. Congratulations, Billy Eichner.
You got a 24 out of 37.
That's not bad. Hey, that's not bad.
But that's
if you're over 18
really
and a half, that's positive.
24 out of 37 is 65%.
Yeah, but like the American grading system is like, it's fucked, you know?
Oh, we are on our own base 37 metric.
Yeah.
But just to give you a sense of where 24 out of 37 is, 65% is pretty good.
This isn't Scott and Sarah when they were in high school and being annoying and were like an A-.
I mean, we are still being Scott and Sarah being annoying. We're just not in high school.
Yeah, just a different way. And I'm saying, whereas as a 16-year-old, well, I don't know. I got a lot of A- and worse. I actually didn't care about grades in high school, so I don't know why I'm pretending. But
I did way too much.
Scott cared about grades. 65% is good.
I'm excited to watch a movie that's actually supposedly good. I think most people think Carol's a good movie.
No,
no,
let's pick a different movie. It's not a bad movie. It's very different. Let's pick like a good movie that neither of us has seen though. What's like it doesn't even have to be a queer movie. Like people keep telling me I need to watch Oppenheimer.
I don't want to watch Oppenheimer again.
Okay,
I would talk about it, but I've seen it.
I'm not gonna make you watch Oppenheimer again.
I would definitely do like one of the movies up for Oscars.
Oh yeah, let's check out Oscar.
Poor Things. Nominated. Would you do Poor Things?
Oh yeah, is that out on streaming though?
Oh, I don't know.
I've heard it's quite good, but I don't want to go to a movie theater because COVID is spiking, y'all. Did you know? Wear your fucking masks. No, that's still in theaters.
February 27th. Okay, well we can do it soon.
Killers of the Flower Moon. What is?
I would do that.
Martin
I read
Scorsese.
The book.
No, I'm not gonna do a Scorsese movie.
It's 3 hours, but I would do it. I need to watch it.
Is American Fiction streaming yet? Yeah, that's out.
Yeah, I would do that.
I've heard that one's really good.
Yeah.
Let's do American Fiction. We should probably bring on a black person to talk about that one though, because it's like a movie about blackness. So maybe we should wait until we are bringing guests on to talk about that one.
Okay.
What do you think?
I haven't seen the movie. I know actually very little about American Fiction, so
I can tell you what I know about it. It's about a like highfalutin black fancy academia type who gets frustrated that no one cares about what he does. So like sort of out of spite and as a joke, he writes a novel, like a shitty novel, like as though he were like a kind of a common thug, like black media archetype guy, and it becomes extremely popular. And it's about him trying to navigate like performing blackness for white audiences as the only way to like profit as a creative, as a black creative, versus like it's really not a movie that like we should probably talk about without at least a black perspective.
Okay.
But it is
How about
supposed
The
to be really
Color
good.
Purple?
Doing a what? Oh, great. Yeah. The Help. Okay, I haven't seen Barbie.
Ooh, The Holdovers.
What's The Holdovers?
It's the Alexander
I've
Payne movie.
I've heard that one's good. Yeah, we could do The Holdovers. We are allowed to talk about prep school kids.
Oh man, get ready for a lot of Ivy League shit. Both of you listeners, Mr. and Mrs. Kaplan.
Thanks, Mom and Dad. Hey, Henry listens to it too.
And Henry.
Yeah.
Okay, Holdovers next week. Same time next week.
Let's make sure it's streaming.
Yeah.
This is the really fun part of the podcast where we figure out what we're doing next.
Peacock and Amazon.
That one is streaming. Okay, cool. Great. And if you are one of our listeners, and if you happen to be watching this on YouTube before I like edit and publish these podcasts more officially, feel free to comment on something you want us to watch. We don't know. We're not professional. We don't know what we're doing.
No idea.
Oh, wait. Have you seen But I'm a Cheerleader?
A long time ago. Yeah.
I've never seen it. That's on the list. Add that to the list.
Yeah, I'll start a list with you. And I'll also start keeping track of our scores.
But I'm a Cheerleader. Best LGBTQ plus movies of all time, according to Rotten Tomatoes.
So you
Number one.
want to do another gay movie? You don't want to
Number one is Welcome to Chechnya.
That's
all right.
Wrong.
I don't think this is right at all.
You could do Maestro, the worst movie of all time.
Then we can talk about anti-Semitism. Oh, we should watch They/Them at some point.
Oh.
Okay. Have you heard of that movie?
Is it a horror?
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's the queer slasher movie written by a cishet dude. They/Them. Oh, of course, The Babadook should be on the list.
I don't do it with horror, but I would do it for you for this.
Yeah, we could watch The Babadook. That could be like that's could be our Halloween thing. By then, we're going to be super famous and successful podcasters, obviously.
Mm-hmm. Did you hear
a live watch of that?
The multiple people who are famous now who have podcasts who are like getting read online for the shit they said on their podcasts.
I saw Amy Poehler commenting about it.
So Ayo Edebiri,
Tina Fey.
Yeah.
Shit.
Ayo Edebiri said something is the SNL host with J-Lo as the guest, and then someone found in a podcast from years ago of her talking about how J-Lo has no talent. It's a funny bit and accurate, but it's like, oh, okay, maybe that was not the best thing to say 10 years ago.
No. We can say whatever we want. Who do we think has no talent? I'm going to go on record and say Taylor Swift, just fine.
Great. Start big. Yeah. Tina Fey went on Bowen Yang and Matt Rogers' podcast and was like, Bowen Yang, you are not allowed to talk about how much you hate people's performances anymore because you are too famous for that. I'm sorry, you just can't do it anymore.
Is that what he does? All right, whose performances do we hate? I wanna like start some future feuds. Let's like.
Well, we really did not enjoy Rachel Sennett. We told her she was irresponsible and should not.
Oh yeah, Rachel Sennett. That's I mean, we already did it. We're already.
Yeah.
But whatever the fuck your name
talked
is,
shit about Billy Eichner, who I will definitely see again soon. I'm sure.
Whoever the fuck you are, director of that movie, Senegal
Emma
Seligman. Senegal. Seligman, if you write and direct a queer comedy in the future, do cast me. I'm not an actor, but I would love to make SAG day rates. I'm broke.
Well, Sarah, this has been fun. Who knows what we're gonna watch this week? But
No. We're watching the holdovers. I'm holding.
Oh,
us-
okay, great.
I'm gonna hold us to
hold over. Great.
it.
I'm gonna go
Okay.
eat.
Go eat. I'm gonna go stop podcasting. All right. So this has been Nerd Squad. I'm Sarah Kaplan. You can find me on Instagram at Sarah Rose Kaplan. Sarah no H, Rose like the flower, Kaplan, not the way you normally spell it.
And don't follow me on Instagram.
Yeah, Scott mostly posts like you've been posting a lot of yourself participating in various esoteric rituals recently. I feel
That's all I
like
do.
there's a lot of blood, and I don't want to know where it comes from for legal reasons. Like I don't want
Yeah,
to
so
have
like
to
I said, don't
testify.
follow me at Scott_YS.
Yeah. Yeah. And of course, now we do have our closing theme song for our podcast. Parting time.
Oh, we were off key.
We can't do it at the same time, Scott. Would you like to do it this way? You can sing it.
Parting time. Time to do the podcast, but you can't pod here. Was it that?
I know who I want to pod me home. It's gonna just like fade out. I know who I want
Shut
to
it down.
pod me home. Come on, this is good content.
An hour and 45 minutes in.
Yeah, and if you're looking down at the little timeline bar, there is another hour left, and it is just me singing. I know who I.
Okay, bye, Sarah.
Oh my god! Thanks for watching Evil Levine. It's really bad. Bye, everyone.
Bye.